Yeah, so we got it.
Hello.
Good to have
Yeah.
on. Lovely. How are you?
Good. How
I
are
haven't seen
you?
you in a while.
Yeah, I haven't really
See
seen
that
you.
show?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you look familiar. Like I've seen you before.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think I know.
I think we did.
Meeting.
Yeah, I think you came in the second shift on Tuesday.
Right next to Gail, you know, Gail. Yeah, but Polly might be, Polly might be sitting on top.
Yeah, good. Yeah. And? I know. No electricity. Yeah, no.
Did you, the two of you come to take a class in history? Well, that's fine. You may take notes as you wish. Battle of the Aleutians and Iwo Jima.
Without further ado, good morning. My name is Patrick Ribbon. I'm the chairperson of the Columbia County Honor of Veterans Committee. Sorry, Senator. On behalf of Congressman Mark Barlinaro, Senator Michelle Mitchie, the Columbia County Board of Supervisors, and Columbia County Honor Veteran Committee, I would like to welcome you here this morning. Thank you for your attendance. Let's make sure we silence all our phones. Will everyone please rise? Will the Stuyvesant Falls VFW Post 9593 please post colors?
Color attention. Left face. That's that march.
Order, arms. I'll ask committee member John Neary to please give the invocation.
O God, by whose mercy the faithful departed find rest, look kindly on our departed veterans. Grant that through the passion, death, and resurrection of your Son, they may share in the joy of your heavenly kingdom and rejoice with you and your saints forever. We ask this through Christ our Lord.
Will everyone please join committee member John Flaherty in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our nation.
Color present arms. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order, arms.
Will everyone be seated?
Thank you. Color please.
We'll take a moment to recognize the committee that put this program together each month, along with those who are no longer with us. Committee members Gary Flaherty, Joanne Conker, Mark Clark, John Neary, Holly Tanner, Robert Laporta, Jack French, David Sleeper, Eric DePrime, Patrick Mayo, Joseph Douglas, honorary members James Haggerty and Vince Cremona. At this time, let's take a moment of silence to remember our deceased members. Please take a moment to look at the plaques of our honorary members, Medal of Honor recipients, deceased members, and veterans previously honored, located in the hallway to the left of the double doors. This morning, we are honoring John Howard Crosby Sr., as well as Frederick Warren Crosby. At this time, I'd like to introduce Polly Crosby, who will introduce the family and friends in attendance today.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. And I apologize to my friends if I forget anybody. Maybe people walking the door. John Crosby has his son here, Jack, and Jack is accompanied by his wife, Robin, and her sisters and son. I have two here who is a cousin to both every Crosby around him. And sitting with him is Bob Motion, a friend to, I'm sorry, to every Crosby around here. I have Betty, son Louis Crosby, granddaughter Amanda Crosby, and great-granddaughter Debbie. I'm sorry, Gary Flaherty, son-in-law to John, and his gorgeous fiancee, counting down days to be Mrs. Gary Flaherty for Maria. Bryce Davon, I'm sorry, Bryce, grandson to John. Is that everybody? Can you help me out? That's good? Okay. Thank you.
Holly, thanks very much. I kind of lost your grandson, but that was admirable. Great work. We also have via Skype the pleasure of welcoming the second grade class from Hudson City School District and their teacher, Michelle Sloman. I would like to introduce Alex Horgan, representing Congressman Mark Molinaro, who will present the American flag that flew over the Capitol in Washington, D.C. to the family. Good morning, everybody. My name is Alex Horton here, representing Congressman Mark Molinaro. The Congressman sent his regards, wish he could be with you here today, but unfortunately Congress is in session. So he sent me instead, which I guess somewhere I was better, but once we asked. You know, I was here a couple months ago when we honored Frederick Crosby, I believe it was junior. The Crosby family dedicated to service. Those men, and yes, the women and daughters, because that's also sacrifice as well. It's really great to be with you all here today at the Columbia County Honor Vet Committee, family, everybody else there, Angie. Always good to be with you all. I'm going to be very short. I just want to say from our office to you folks, the family, thank you all for your service and those that are deceased for their service as well. It's truly honorable to see the type of sacrifices they made, both then and now. I think it shows this pretty large family, that we still have some good left in the world with good people who are willing to serve. So I want to present two flags here, very special two flags, flown over the United States Capitol to you folks here. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Alex. I would now like to introduce Senator Michelle Hinchey, who will present the Liberty Medal to the family.
Hello, everyone. Serving one's country is a profound act of patriotism. It's a commitment to safeguarding the principles and freedoms that make our nation an exceptional one. John Howard Crosby Sr. and Frederick Warren Crosby embodied this commitment. Their stories remind us of the profound difference that individuals can make when they dedicate themselves to a cause greater than themselves. Two of our nation's greatest generation not only served with distinction in our military, but when they came back home to Columbia County as well, serving in the fire department, in our police department, and even being a farmer, making sure that our communities had food. That is really the most you can ask for of anyone, of any civilian, of any community member, of really dedicating themselves in any way. And so it's an honor for me to be here, to be a part of this ceremony, and I would love to present two Liberty Medals to the families of two distinguished brothers that we are proud of here in Columbia across New York State. So who should I? Perfect. The first one here, let me check. The first one here is the John Howard Crosby Sr. Thank you very much. anyone here? Frederick Warren Crosby. I'll add, we know that these are the highest medals that anyone can receive of New York State, and so we're proud to facilitate performance.
I'm gonna skip Brenda's. No. Oh, Brenda. I'm not gonna skip you then, Brenda. I'd like to introduce Brenda Adams, Town Supervisor, who presents a certificate recognition on behalf of the Coffee County Board of Supervisors.
As a resident of Canaan, I could not be happier to be here today. The Crosbys are a venerable and beloved family of Canaan, so we're delighted to be here with them and also to remember those who couldn't be with us. Kay and Tammy, I think, would have been very proud to be here, so I'm thinking of them as well. The first proclamation or certificate of recognition is to John Howard Crosby Sr. John Howard Crosby Sr. was born on September 19, 1921 to Frederick and Barbara Thomas Crosby in Canaan, New York. Growing up, he attended Canaan Elementary School and graduated from Canaan High School in 1939. He would later attend several technical schools. John entered the Navy on April 6, 1942 in Albany, New York. He received 6 weeks boot training at the Naval Training Center at Newport, Rhode Island as an apprentice seaman. After receiving an additional 16 weeks of training at the Great Lakes Training Center in Illinois, he attained the rank of Machinist Mate First Class. Machinist Mate First Class John H. Crosby was then assigned to the attack transport USS Newbury and took part in the campaigns of Iwo Jima, Formosa, and Japan. He was acting chief machinist when he was honorably discharged on January 19, 1946 at Lido Beach, Long Island, New York. Machinist Mate First Class John H. Crosby Sr. was awarded the following: the American Theater Medal, the Victory Medal, the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal with 2 stars, the American Defense with 1 star, and the Navy Good Conduct Medal. Returning home, he met and married Catherine Bailey on October 7, 1950, and raised their 3 children, Nancy Ellen, John Jr., and Tammy Jean. John was a senior forestry technician for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for Saratoga Springs and Catskills, retiring in 1980. He served on the Chatham Village Police Department as a patrol officer and later as chief. He was also employed with the Town of Canaan Highway Department. John remained active in his community. He was the past chief of the Canaan Fire Company, a member and former post commander of the VFW Post 8266, and the first president of the Canaan Democratic Club. John passed away on March 27, 2009, and was buried in the Canaan Cemetery. He was 84 years old. In appreciation thereof, this certificate is given under my hand and the privy seal of the Columbia County Board of Supervisors at the County Office Building in Hudson, New York, this 25th day of September, in the year of our Lord, 2023. Matt B. Morrell, Chairman, Columbia County Board of Supervisors. Frederick Warren Crosby was born on October 10, 1919, to Frederick and Barbara Thomas Crosby in Canaan, New York. Growing up, he attended the Canaan School District. He was employed as a carpenter prior to his military service. Frederick Warren Crosby entered the United States Navy on October 10, 1942. After his initial training, Fred received further training as a carpenter and was then assigned to the Seabees in the Pacific Theater of Operations. His unit, the 41st Naval Construction Battalion, was located on the Aleutian Island at Kodiak Naval Base, and then to Guam, which is located in the Mariana Islands. Carpenter mate second class Frederick W. Crosby served 3 years, 1 month, and 24 days, and then was honorably discharged at Lido Beach, Long Island. Fred returned home, met Elizabeth Bailey, and was married on December 27, 1945, in Litchfield, Connecticut. They had 3 children, Fred, Karen, and Deb. In the ensuing years, Fred worked as a farmer, self-employed carpenter for Berkshire Farm and the Columbia County Highway Department. He was a charter member of the Canaan Conservation Club, where he served as president and treasurer. He was a traditionalist and very connected to nature. He enjoyed hunting, fishing, and gardening. He would plant 3 acres of potatoes each year and host a clam bake each Saturday on Labor Day weekend. He had fond memories of Alaska, where he served during the war, and wished to one day visit again. Fred passed away on May 26, 1981. He left behind his lovely wife, 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. He was 61 years old at the time of his death. In appreciation thereof, this certificate is given under my hand and the privy seal of the Columbia County Board of Supervisors at the County Office Building in Hudson, New York, this 25th day of September in the year of our Lord, 2023, Matt B. Burrell, Columbia County Board of Supervisors.
And welcome addition to our committee. At this time, the PFC Widows Group will present the family with a bouquet of flowers in memory of their loved ones' service to our country.
Ladies, phone up.
We're a group that formed less than a year ago, and the Crosby family means a lot to us. Holly is one of our members, and we would have never had it without Gary, and that has a lot to do with the Black program. But this means more because it's in our hearts that we're presenting this to you, because we care mostly about the widows group and the families and this honor of it. So as all of us, and this is just a small portion of us, I want to say thank you, and it's not just us, but it's family. So, this is all made by our widow Carolyn, and she gives it to us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, would anyone like to say a few words on behalf of John or our president?
Thank you everyone for attending today. I really appreciate it. Friends, family, distinguished guests. A couple things I want to say. A lot of people don't know is 2 brothers married 2 sisters, and we lived within a quarter mile of each other. So we were kind of more like brothers and sisters than cousins. Something, right? So we were always together. I mean, there was nothing to be at each other's house during, you turn around and mothers, and we all know, you start with a full name when you're in trouble. When you turn around and yell at me, and it was Debbie, and then, but anyway. There's a couple things related to my father during the war. If anybody knew my Uncle Fred, he was a card shark. This man could play, he'd suck you in and he'd take you dry. You know, in the last hand of cards, you were done. Well, it's really unique. At this time, there was no communication, no internet, no cell phones. Well, both my dad and my uncle were on leave at the same time on the same island. We didn't know each other, didn't know that each other was off. So they walked in, and here's my father at a card game, getting his butt handed to him. I mean, it was just, from what I understand, it wasn't pretty. Well, my uncle came in, sat down, acknowledged my father, but didn't let everybody else know that they were related. And typical fashion, Fred just got himself hooked in and he just started losing. But the last hand, he wiped everybody out. Just cleaned the table, gave the money back to my dad and said, now get the blank out of here and don't do this again. So that was, like I said, if anybody knew Fred, that you know how that went together. And the second thing is, we all know that most people don't want to talk about their experiences. Dad talked about one which he was very proud of. Excuse me. During the Battle of Iwo Jima, my father was on the deck of the ship at the end, and he saw the original flag being raised on Mount Suribachi. Most people know about the one that was raised again for the photography, but he was there and saw the original, and that was one thing that he was very proud of. And I was proud to hear that, and of course, everything that he did and my uncle for this country. Thank you very much.
Don't let this scare you. Some of it is what Jackie just, I know, I'm a teacher, English teacher, so sorry. Having this honor veteran ceremony today for both Fred and John Crosby is very fitting in several ways. Yes, they both served in the military, both in the Navy. Yes, they were two brothers who married two sisters. They both raised their family in the same town, on the same street, about a half a mile or quarter of a mile from each other. They were alike in many other ways. Both men had very strong work ethics, which they passed on to their children. They were both very involved in nature and conservation. Both men were very involved in both raising their grandchildren, devoted to their families, led in by providing examples, truthful men, faithful men, patriotic men, truly fine men. But they also had both unique personalities. Fred was very much a man who lived a simple life. In his gardens, his candles, he was famous for those, and playing cards are what I most remember because I never once won against this man. He wouldn't even let a woman win. John was a man who was more comfortable than Fred when it came to dealing with the public. I remember John truly researching people in politics, making sure that those for whom he voted truly reflected the morals and the values he expected from these leading the Canaan community and our country. John was also much quicker to stand up front to let you know he liked you. He was quick to smile, laugh, and be comfortable enough to make you feel accepted as a friend, a family. Fred was more reserved in this area, at least in my experience. It was months and months after I had been dating his son, Fred, before he decided I was not fine, I was not great, I was okay. Only after I had driven to his home in the middle of a freezing blizzard, to his house, in his somewhat sometimes sarcastic? No. He was shocked that I made the drive through all that snow and, like I said, sarcastically asked if I wanted a drink to warm me up because he thought Catholic school teacher would be highly offended and I'd walk out and whatever. But at that moment, I sat down and chugged a shot glass of whiskey, and from that moment on, he liked me. Eventually, from that moment on, he actually gave me a nickname, something he only did for his family members, and it was really, really sweet and kind and feminine. He put this nickname for me on an Easter egg, Polly Pigward. But I knew at that time that I belonged. Both Fred and John were identical when it came to their patriotism. Both men were so proud to serve this country they loved. This pride and patriotism they passed down to future generations. Fred and John, both true, honorable veterans. Thank you for recognizing their sense of duty and devotion to this country.
My cousin took what I was gonna say.
Good morning, and thank everyone for being here and doing this. It's a wonderful program, if that's the right word. What I would like to say is I was going to tell the same story my cousin did with the gambling, only I always thought it was craps. And my uncle never really liked the story to be related to us because Dad bailed him out, basically.
Oh, yeah.
But that's kind of what I was gonna say as far as those two. And again, I'm so happy for everyone that's here. And I can't say enough about this. I was here for my brothers and I'm so glad I'm here now. And thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I don't think I need this. I'm a very loud talker. Yeah, shocking, right? So, thank you, everybody, for coming. As Polly noted, we're big on nicknames in our family, so I'm going to share something that is not known to pretty much anyone outside our family. So, if those of you that know Fred know that he had a larger than average, almost perfectly round head. Well, when I was a child, it just hit me, Pumpkinhead. So from there on, years later, we always known him as Pumpkinhead. And he rolled right with it. Every time I'd see him and call Pumpkinhead, he'd laugh and smile and pick me up and hug me, and it was great. But yeah, both of these guys were just incredible men. They helped instill morals in me, and they were both a very large part in me joining the Navy. So just thank you, everybody, for coming, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mark Gary. Gary. Sorry.
How do I always miss you?
Have your hand raised.
Good morning, everybody, and I too would want to appreciate everybody coming. I think we should have a family reunion. I haven't seen that forever. In any case, I didn't know Fred. I entered the family after Fred had died, but I got to tell you, one of the most influential and special people in my life was my father-in-law. And I think today I'll call him John. I never called him by his first name. He was always there. And we just had this special relationship. I got a couple of stories. One, after I retired from the Army, I ended up being in a Navy family. And he constantly reminded me of such. Army-Navy football game was a special day of the year. I would go down to the house and he'd have a sign. On Saturday, on the day before, it would be Navy beat Army. I'd go down after the game. If Navy won, there was a sign, Navy beat Army. But if it wasn't, if the Navy didn't win and the Army won, there was no sign. Yeah, that's right. But I really enjoyed being in the Crosby family. After I retired, I had a special unit that I worked with, a retired colonel and I, providing chemical and biological protection to the Saudi National Guard. And I'd come home in the evenings And he would be sitting down by the barn in the shed, and he and I'd sit there until the sun went down, watching the sun go down. And at that time, I was having my own struggles with PTSD, just recently retired from the Army. For the first time, I was able to open up and talk to somebody, and he was a lifesaver, I gotta tell you. My father-in-law was a very, very special guy. One time he told me a story about, he said, "You're a Vietnam vet," and I, you weren't like us World War II guys. And when he got to know me one time, he said, "I gotta tell you a story because I accept you for being a Vietnam vet. And I really helped you guys one time when I was chief of police in Chatham. I got a call from Fort Dix one time from the MP saying, there's a deserter in Chatham who refuses to go to Vietnam. Would you go pick him up?" So he said, I picked him up, called the county sheriff's office for space to lock him up, and they didn't have any room. So creatively, and knowing my father-in-law, he handcuffed a guy to a telephone pole in the middle of Chatham. And then called the MPs and said, "He's here, can you come and get him today?" And they said, "No, but we can come tomorrow." So the guy was handcuffed at a telephone pole in Chatham overnight. MP Sergeant came and he said, "For a Navy guy, I'm proud." Anyway, thank you, everybody. I enjoyed my father-in-law a lot, and I miss him very much. So, have a good day, everybody.
Two things are quite clear, that if you want to run for office in Canaan, your last name better be Crosby. Number two is, if you ever want to pass the hat, you want to get Pumpkin's hat. Now, you try to think about things that you want to say when we honor people, and then it dawned on me. I mean, you got two brothers that come from Canaan, small town, right? They married sisters, right? Both of them go in the Navy. We find out that they met in Guam. One has a gambling habit, a very good one, by the way.
He taught us how to play.
One becomes a carpenter, and don't confuse that with they slam nails. You want to see a movie, you want to see The Fighting Seabees. John Wayne plays in it, and it pretty much accurately explains what the Seabees did. They were under fire as well, probably more so because they have to be in the front lines, okay? And I think you were looking at my notes because I was going to talk about Iwo Jima as well. Fred was on the Aleutian Islands. Now, for the children are back in the classroom, if that teacher can want to go back, the Aleutian Islands extend all the way from Alaska, almost halfway or so towards Japan. It's just a group of islands that go through there. Now, one would ask yourself, it was attacked by the Japanese. Why would somebody want to attack the Aleutian Islands? I mean, they're barren. What do they got? They got seals and stuff on there. I mean, there's very few people that are on there. If you were in the Army and you happened to mess up, they would send you to a radar station somewhere out in the Aleutian Islands. I mean, that was not good duty. The Japanese attacked Dutch Harbor. They had a small naval installation there, and they had a army there. And they dropped troops at Kiska and Attu. Now, why would they do that? You would say to yourself, well, there's a couple reasons. Number one is, and it's argued by historians, and they didn't teach this at Takata Kills, by the way. After the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, Doolittle took a group of guys and did the impossible. Flew bombers off of aircraft carriers and bombed the homeland of Japan. Why is that significant? Because the Japanese said they'll never attack. Whoa, guess what? They did. So they were a little bit paranoid about the Americans coming in. So they figured they could take the northern flank. But there's a more important one. And we honored this gentleman years ago, and his name is, let's see, Wilford J. Holmes. Now, Wilford J. Holmes was a local boy, and he was in the Navy, and he was involved in a special operation where they broke the Japanese code. And if you really want to see, you have to see Midway. It's a great movie. It's also a great book. And what happened is that we knew that the Japanese were going to get a diversionary attack up in the Aleutian Islands. And hopefully the US Navy would go up there, and then they could pack Midway. If you got Midway, you got Hawaii. If you got Hawaii, you got the western coast of the United States. Well, we knew they were coming. So, a lot of these installations that was up there were built by Seabees, possibly your father, uncle, whatever. And if not, he certainly repaired them because they bonded. But there's one little known thing that they never talked about at Taconic Hills history, and they probably didn't talk about it in 99.999% of all the history classes. The one significant thing that they did in the Aleutian Islands is that there was one Japanese plane. They only shot down a few of them because they attacked them and they didn't know they were coming. They hit the oil line, and therefore this Japanese Zero could not get back to the aircraft carrier. So they had arranged that if there were any downed pilots, they would go to a particular island. And he tried to land, he was going to parachute out, and he said, well, you know, it looks like I can land it. So he went to land it, and it flipped over, and it killed him. Japanese, the rest of the airplanes that were around there, had orders to destroy the airplane, but they didn't know if their friend was still alive, so they went back to the carrier. So how does that fit into this whole matrix? Well, what happened is that a PBY was flying around and said, whoa, there's a plane down there upside down. They went in and they found out the pilot was indeed killed, broke his neck, I believe. But the airplane was intact. This changed the whole course of the war. I mean, the entire course of the war. They took it back to the States, they repaired it, and then they did tests on it. And they found the strengths and the weaknesses of a Zero. And one of the things that they did, they had a Japanese ace early on in the war. And what he would do is he would let an American slide in behind him, and he would go up in the air, straight up in the air, knowing full well that the fighter that the Americans had would stall, they would turn, and he would turn down on him, and he would shoot him from the six, as they call it. Well, guess what? It didn't work. They changed the whole way that we attacked the Japanese. One battle, Battle of the Marianas, shot down over 300 Japanese Zeros. Killed off all of their experienced pilots, they had less pilots, whatever. But more importantly, he might have saved his brother's life, because the Japanese didn't have that many planes to attack the Navy. And of course that brings us, which by the way, I want to point out that Fred, by the way, should probably have practically every medal that his brother had, but it wasn't on his DD Form 214 or whatever. So you might want to talk to Sergeant Major over there and see if we can rectify that after 70, 80, 90 years.
That'd be awesome.
Now John, he was a machinist. Now machinists fix machines, right? And he was on a transport, a fast-moving transport, and it transported troops to the war zone. What he did was he transported them to Iwo Jima. You were looking at my notes. Iwo Jima was significant because it changed the way that the Japanese approached the war. Before, they would pull out the samurais that run through, and the guys like, I think, Guadalcanal, and they would shoot them by the hundreds. They said, no, what we're going to do is let the Americans get on the shoreline, and we're going to back off, and then we're going to attack them. And we're not going to do any bonsai attacks. What we want to do is we want to make it so costly for the Americans that they will sue for peace. And that's what they did. There were 27,000 casualties on Iwo Jima for the Americans. That's a tremendous amount. 3 of which served in Philmont, New York. 1 of which was the uncle of Chief Moore. I worked with him. Mr. Smith, shop teacher, he was there. Russ Robertson, also a teacher, was there, both of them in the Marine Corps. And a man by the name of Ron, let's see if I got him right down here. Ron Monte, he was killed there. But this is what I wanted to point out. It wasn't the significance of just the battle, because what they could do is they could use that island when the B-29s were coming back from Japan and they were shot up, they could land there. And the Seabees were brought in while the battle was still going on. And B-29s were actually landing and being shot by the Japanese that they were still fighting. Fighting would take place weeks beyond that, okay? And it wasn't just that. It was raising of the flag. There was a guy by the name of Jake Martin. He was from Hudson, New York, and he died. He's not with us anymore. He was a photographer. And the film that was taken of the raising of the flag, the original one, no, I take that. The second one, he developed. It was so moving, and it was so stark. It was so beautiful. The lighting, the wind, whatever, that he took a copy of that, and everybody else that was in his lab took a copy, and then they sent it back to the States. The following day, it hit every single paper. What do you think happened with the bond sales? It exploded. They got more money that was coming in to fight the war. People were joining the United States Marine Corps. It changed the morale, because you have to remember, the morale in the United States at that time, they've been fighting the war for about 4 years. It changed the whole texture of the thing. So here you got two brothers that came from a small town in Columbia County, in the Navy. One of them had worked on the Aleutian Islands that saved countless lives because of that one Japanese plane. And the other brother, who took the 4th Marine Division, parts of them, to Iwo Jima, was on the end of that thing. The line, there were hundreds of ships. I get chills. I almost stood up and applauded when you mentioned that. Because they say that when the flag was raised, all of the ships started honking their horns and blowing their whistles by the hundreds. And the Marines that were down in the trenches looked up and they saw this flag. It gave them hope. But more importantly, it gave the American people the will to see that war out. It changed the way that we felt about war, and we were willing to have our sons die to see it completed. That is the significance of a carpenter and a machinist from a small town in Columbia County that married 2 sisters and has a voting palace of people. You should run for Big Canaan. I thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Do we have anyone else who'd like to add? Yes, sir.
Hello. I was just a baby, literally 6 months old when my grandfather Fred died. John kind of, in my mind, stepped in for the grandfather role. I remember growing up, doing the hay with him, going through mowing the lawn, and I still, in my photo album, I have a picture of me on his lawnmower with him. I remember going through feeding the horses, doing everything, but my favorite memory of him growing up was our weekly pizza parties after we got done doing the horses in the fall, doing the hay. I look at it in a way where, like I said, I never really got to meet my grandfather, but his brother stepped in as another grandfather for me, and that's helped form my love of doing a lot of things outdoors. That whole family, we've all done outdoors, but that's what really helped me with that. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming here.
One more.
So like my brother said, I never knew my grandfather, Fred. He passed a couple years before I was born, but my brother said it perfectly. John really stepped in for that grandfather role. A lot of my childhood memories are being over his house, like Luke said, feeding the horses, doing the hay, but my favorite memory was rolling down the big hills he had in his yard. That was one of the best things ever, and having him just encouraging us. And he meant a lot to me, and I wish that I get to spend more time with him. I wish my daughter could have met Fred and John, and John meant so much to me that in fact when I found out I was pregnant, she was a boy, she was gonna be named John, after my grandfather on my mom's side and my Uncle John. So obviously these two men meant a lot to everyone. We just thank you all for coming out and showing your support and honoring them today. Thank you.
Always, when I taught school, I don't wanna hear the would-haves later. I could have, I should have, I would have spoken, but I was nervous, but does anyone else like to speak? Okay. All right, this ends the inside segment of our ceremony. We'll go outside where the flag will be raised and flown outside the county office building for 30 days of memory of John and Fred. At which time will be cleaned and presented to the family. You're welcome to join us for juice, coffee, and donuts after the ceremony, which is right out to the left. This concludes this month's ceremony, and our ceremony will be next ceremony will be October 23rd, when we will honor Gary Miller from Greenport. If you are interested in honoring a veteran, application can be picked up at the Veterans Office. Will everyone please stand?
Color guard. And judge.
Will Stuyvesant Falls VFW Post 9593, please retire the colors.
Color guard. Half step. March.
Present. Huh. Order. Huh. At this time, we'll have some photos taken inside. Our outside ceremony, family members will participate in raising the flag with the assistance of myself.
Yeah.
Ladies, we're gonna take a picture.
She and I.
Stop to say, you know, we're having this picture. You might take 5 minutes. They want to say that. Somebody wants to, they're all family, we have others, Gary. Gary wants to get a picture.
Good John. Hey, John. Your first time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.